Barakatah Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem Rucha Kodash. Welcome to another live lesson. The name of this one is In That Night. And pretty much this is a reference to the Passover. You know, those of you brothers and a few sisters know or should know by now that today being Wednesday, March 16th, 2022, the year of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai turning up, that tonight is the Passover. When the sun goes down tonight, depending on what time the sun goes down in your area, is the Passover. And during the time of the Passover, there were a lot of things that were going down, a lot of horrors, a lot of death, a lot of, pretty much mourning, and prior to that particular night, you had a lot of plagues that were happening in Egypt. The Lord plaguing the Egyptians for not letting, his son Israel go to serve him, the Israelites, which the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, to not let them go so that the Lord could build the Pharaoh up so he could use him to show his power, same way he's doing with Esau today. And today, America being the modern day Egypt, we're pretty much at the point, when all hell breaks loose for the Lord to deliver us out of Egypt again, Apostle Tahar's channel is Don't Take the Charagma. That's his latest channel. Let me pull that up real quick. Just bear with me 1 second, because sometimes it's hard to find if you just type in Don't Take the Charagma. But let me try it anyway. Let me try it like this. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, it did come up, but it's hard to. All right, so here is the channel. This is the channel right here. All right, that's it right there. So, there were a lot of things going on prior to that, and we're pretty much at that point now where the Lord is speaking, through his prophecies. And as the prophecies speak louder and louder, and as they continue to be fulfilled, we get closer and closer to the end. The first time we walked out of Egypt, this time we're flying out of Egypt. Lord's will we be the elect. We're going out in style this time, into the chariot of Yahushai. So with that being said, I wanted to read a little bit about the Passover. I'm not going to go into the details of, how to keep it. You could read the whole book of Exodus, the 12th chapter, which gives you an in-depth, breakdown of the Passover, how it was kept, and all the particulars that you need. What I want to do is I want to start in the 11th verse, dealing with the time that we were eating the Passover, and then, the things that were happening prior to the last plague, or the 10th plague of Egypt, and before we were actually, went on our journey out of the land of Egypt. So this is Exodus 12 and 11. And thus shall you eat it with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand. And you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover. So pretty much just in this verse here, it says you're supposed to eat it with your loins girded, shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. In other words, you're not supposed to be sitting there with your spoon and your knife or your forks, sitting there, like you was at a fancy restaurant, eating, your food. It's supposed to be eaten in haste, because that night was a night of sheer horror, and it was also a night of deliverance where we had to actually flee. So you didn't have time to sit down, with your knife and your spoon, and your fork, and sitting there, taking your time eating, your dinner. Make sure you chew it very well, chew it really good, so that they could digest better. Now, it was none of that. Everything was done in haste, and this is pretty much what we're coming to now. Prior to the deliverance, there's, people take the Passover as a money-making racket. They take the Passover as a time to party, party and bullshit. They treat it like a picnic or a lamb dinner, as Elder Apostle Tahar called it years ago. And this is not a lamb dinner. This is a very serious thing, and most, especially the ones that know that they're Israelites, because of Jake out there, they're gone because the Lord blinded them. But Jake, that knows that they're Israelites, they take this day pretty much as a joke, So it says, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite," which the word smite means kill, "all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am Yahweh." So when it says here the gods, it's talking about all of the rulers, from the Pharaoh, to his second in command, to the different offices that the Egyptians held, So all of those Egyptians, their positions, their rulers, from the Pharaoh all the way down to the ones that were in the prisons, that were locked up in the stocks, everybody that had sons, everybody lost their firstborn son, both the people and the cattle of the Egyptians, just to let you know how serious this whole thing was. It says, "And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are." The blood of what? Of the lamb. And what you would do is you would take hyssop, and you would dip it in the blood, because hyssop is a purifier, and you would put it on your doorpost and on the lintel, and then when Yahushua would pass through the land of Egypt, he would pass over that particular house or houses that had the lamb's blood on it. All right. And this time, the doorposts and the lintels are our minds, our spirits, and the blood is the blood of Yahushua, which is that sacrificial lamb, in these times. It says, "And when I see the blood, I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt. But those that, if not that any Israelite back then disobeyed that, but if they did, they would have been destroyed. They would have been slain, their firstborn." So in this time, Jake being, disobedient and not accepting the truth and not accepting the covering of the blood of Yahushua, what they're doing is they're not putting the blood upon their doorposts. So when Yahushua comes back, he's not going to pass over them. He's going to destroy them. Right? It says, now we're going to jump down to the 21st verse. "Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, Draw out and take you a lamb according to your families, and kill the Passover. And you shall take a bunch of hyssop and dip it in the blood that is in the basin, and strike the lintel and the two side posts with the blood that is in the basin. And none of you shall go out at the door of his house until the morning." So technically, if you want to keep the Passover correctly, you will have to actually keep it in your own home and keep the Passover, go through the service, eat the lamb, eat the unleavened bread, eat the bitter herbs, drink the wine, and you will stay at home and not go out of the door. That's how it was done in Egypt, because that blood was there. That was the covering, and that was the house. That was the building where you were in. If you went outside of that building, you would be destroyed. Today, the house is spiritual. As we go to 1 Peter 2, and 5, it speaks about being a Matter of fact, let's get it. I can't think of the wording right now. 1 Peter chapter 2 and 5. You also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house and holy priesthood to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to the Most High by Yahushua, and our minds being that door. And that's why Yahushua said he has the key of David. He opens and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. So our mind, where our spirit is, that is the door. And the opening or the key is Yahushua turning that key to open up the understanding of this truth, to be able to accept it, or be able to receive it, accept it, and keep it to be delivered. All right, so going back, it says, for the Lord will pass through to smite the Egyptians, and when he seeth the blood upon the lintel, same thing now. When Yahushua and the angels come back, the ones that don't have his blood upon them, he's going to destroy. It says, and on the two side posts, the Lord will pass over the door. And the ones that have that mark of the Lord, of the Heavenly Father, that Thawah, will be exempted from judgment, and will not suffer the destroyer to come in unto your home, unto your houses, to smite you. See? So now we jump down from there to the 29th verse. And it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. So you got to remember, this is all in one stroke. One moment, everything is calm, and the next minute, there's at least one dead in every home of the Egyptians. From the home of the Pharaoh to the home of the legislative body, the different mighty men of Egypt, the armies, all the way down to the farmers of Egypt, all the way down to the people that were locked up in the prison houses. Everybody had, in an instant, everybody had their firstborn dead. And that is the inheritor of you. That is the person that keeps your name and pushes your name forward. So losing the firstborn was a hard thing. So it says, from the firstborn of Pharaoh that sat on his throne unto the firstborn of the captive that was in the dungeon, and all the firstborn of cattle. And Pharaoh rose up in the night, he and all his servants, and all the Egyptians, and there was a great cry in Egypt, for there was not a house where there was not one dead. So there was wailing. Now, if you hear one person crying, you look, because they could get loud depending on how affectionate or how close they were to the person that died and that they lost. But now imagine a whole nation of people crying. Could you imagine the horror, the sheer horror of the noise of that cry, and of the blood curdling cry that was being made throughout all the land of Egypt, because they lost their firstborn. And here it is, Jake is in their home with the blood over the doorpost, and they're hearing this. See, these guys have the wrong conception of what the Passover is all about. The Passover is not a feast to glory in. The Passover is pretty much a feast, to reflect, where we was in captivity, that we were being delivered. But that very night was a horrible night. The Passover that Yahushua had was a very solemn assembly. He was very heavy in his spirit because he was about to be sacrificed. But these guys, no, we're going to keep it the way we want. We're going to keep it Babylon style. Bring out the hose, turn the music on, give me some of that cornbread, give me some mac and cheese, throw some lamb on it. Like a total blatant disrespect for the Lord's Passover. The scriptures tell you exactly what you need for the Passover. You don't need all that extra other shit. Back in the days, we used to have boiled eggs, which pretty much shows that these small hats worship Easter. So-called bunnies laying eggs. They have something called a cedar plate. Which is, they give you a plate with different things on it. One of them is the piece of lamb. You got your boiled egg. You got different things on that plate. And then they give you them nasty ass matzahs that taste like hell. I mean, unless you know how to hook them up, them things are disgusting, just plain like that. Shit tastes like stale. You ever had them crackers, them saltine crackers, or square ones, and then you had a thing that was open, it's been open for a while, and then you go to bite it, shit is all stale, tastes like hell. Well, that's what them matzahs taste like. All right. So from there, let's go to the book of Wisdom of Solomon, the 18th chapter. We're going to start at the 6th verse, because there's a few chapters in Wisdom of Solomon that actually go into certain things that were happening, within the land of Egypt. One of the main curses that they brought out was the darkness. And also another one was the death of the firstborn of the Egyptians. And here it says that there was a great cry in Egypt. But now listen to this. Wisdom of Solomon 18:6. Of that night were our fathers certified afore, that assuredly knowing unto what oath they had given credence, they might afterwards be of good cheer. Yeah, because the Lord gave them the ordinance of the Passover and what to do. So of thy people was accepted both the salvation of the righteous and destruction of the enemies, because this is what's coming here. There's a deliverance coming. There's a judgment coming. The judgment is a two-part judgment. You have the judgment of destruction, and you have the judgment of deliverance. D&D, destruction and deliverance. For the majority, it's going to be destruction. For the elect of the nation of Israel, it's going to be deliverance. So you got your D&D judgment, all right? Destruction and deliverance. And that's exactly what was going on in the land of Egypt prior to us leaving the land of Egypt. For wherewith thou didst punish our adversaries, by the same thou didst glorify us, whom thou hast called, right? So you have a twofold judgment. For the righteous children of good men did sacrifice secretly, and with one consent made a holy law, that the saints should be like partakers of the same good and evil. The fathers now singing out the songs of praise, right? Because they didn't witness with their eyes the death of the firstborn of the Egyptians, but they witnessed with their ears the cry, the blood curdling cries that was made throughout the land of Egypt. And that's why when we get delivered out of here, you're going to have something called the time of Jacob's trouble. So there's going to be a lot of death, a lot of crying, a lot of a lot of misery going down in the streets of Babylon, spiritually known as Egypt today, prior to the deliverance, similar to what was going on in Egypt. But in the land of Egypt, the Lord delivered all of Israel, but there was no harm that came to any of the Israelites. But now, in this time, the Lord is only going to deliver the elect of the nation of Israel, and the 2/3 here in America are going to catch holy hell. Daniel 12:1, the time of then. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, because he is, the first line of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai's military. All right, that spiritual military. And there shall be a time of trouble. So this is what we're coming to, the time of trouble, the time of Jacob's trouble. Because it doesn't say Jacob here, but guess what? It does say it when you keep reading. Such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time. So this is going to be holy hell coming down upon Jake out here in the world. And at that time, thy people, who is thy people? Jacob, the Israelites. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered. Right. So it is the time of Jacob's trouble, because the Lord's people are the Israelites. And they're going to, we're all going to be in trouble. But the Lord is going to come to deliver the elect. It says, everyone that shall be found written in the book. So this is also a scripture speaking about the time of Jacob's trouble. All right. So this is what's going to be going down. So going back here, back to Wisdom of Solomon 18:10. But on the other side, there sounded but on the other side, there sounded an ill according cry of the enemies, and a lamentable noise was carried abroad for the children that were bewailed. When you see, you can cry, you can mourn, you can whimper, but then you can bewail. A bewailing is much worse than just a cry. Let's look up that word bewailed. You know, you have a whimper, you have a cry. You know, you have mourning, but then you have bewailing. Bewail, express great regret, disappointment, or bitterness over something. You know, so this is like to the extreme. You know, and you just lose it, and there's no amount of comfort and no words that can take your mind off of or comfort your mind from this loss. So let's read that again. But on the other side, there sounded an ill-according cry of the enemies, and a lamentable noise was carried abroad for the children that were bewailed. The master and the servant were punished after one manner, and like as the king, so suffered the common person. Because everybody in Egypt that was not an Israelite had somebody within their family dead. It says, so they all together had innumerable dead with one kind of death. Neither were the living sufficient to bury them. For in one moment, the noblest offspring of them was destroyed. And now is not the Lord coming to destroy this place suddenly? Matter of fact, let's get that. Isaiah 47. And 11. Therefore shall evil come upon thee, thou shalt not know from whence it riseth, and mischief shall fall upon thee, thou shalt not be able to put it off, and desolation shall come upon thee suddenly, which thou shalt not know. You see? So suddenly, life has new me. Let me stop. I don't want to embarrass myself. Patha'am, which is suddenly, surprisingly. So when something is suddenly, instantly, it comes pretty much without warning. The word pathai, suddenness, in an instant, which goes back, it says here, meaning to open the eyes, pathai, and then you have the word pathach, which means to open. All right. So suddenly it's going to go down. Now, I'm going to leave that there because Lord's will, I'll go back to that. Let's go from there to the book of Revelation 18. And just to find it quicker. Revelation 18:17. I started at 16. Started at 15. Yes. It says, the merchants of these things which were made rich by her shall stand afar off for the fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. They're not going to be weeping and wailing because they're going to feel sorry for America, but just for the sheer horror of her destruction, and for the thought that, damn, we ain't going to be able to make no more money off this hoe no more. Shit. You know, they top bitch, they bottom bitch is gone. She's off the planet, you know, so they're not going to be able to make money like they used to. It says, in saying, alas, alas. So alas, alas is a statement of sorrow, of grief. You know, like, oh my God, oh my goodness, whoa. That great city, America, Babylon the Great, that was clothed in fine linen. Ooh, man, we got to keep that in mind. You got to keep this in mind, that fine linen right there. You got to keep that in mind right there. It says, and purple and scarlet and decked with gold, because this is a representation of the extravagant lifestyle that America has. When you read, I believe, either further down or a little bit further up, you know, it speaks about, you know, her dainties, and it also speaks about, let me see, right here, her, and goodly. The dainty and goodly things really are departed from thee. And that the goodly part is a representation of the luxuries, Because just like Buckwan Rashni said he believes in luxuries. Well, America believes in luxuries. Inside joke. It says, for in 1 hour, see, suddenly, quickly, so great riches is come to naught, and every shipmaster and all the company and ships and sailors and as many as trade by sea stood afar off and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this great city, right? Because they're not going to be able to make any more money. But the point is the sheer horror of the things that are going to be going down in this society prior to the Lord coming back. It's going to be, it ain't going to be fun. I put it to you like that. Even the elect are going to be, scared. Even the elect is going to be scared. All right, so let's go back. Wisdom of Solomon 18. For in one moment the noblest offspring of them was destroyed. For whereas they would not believe in anything by reason of the enchantments, upon the destruction of the firstborn, they acknowledge his people to be the sons of the Most High. Why? Because whatever Moses and Aaron did, their magicians were able to replicate it through that magic art. But it came up to a point where their enchantments didn't work anymore. And that's why we read here that this destruction or desolation is going to come upon them suddenly, that they shall not know, right? It says, stand now with thine enchantments. This is dealing with America. Because even when this place is destroyed, people around the world that were partakers of the benefit of Babylon and her enchantments, and these different international bankers, when they're in their bunkers, they're not going to repent of the murders and of the sorceries that they've done. All they thinking about, okay, well, this phase 1, all right, now let's go to phase 2, because they got plans A through Z, and then once they got plans A through Z, then they got another second tier of plans A through Z, and then the third tier of plans A through Z, because they planning constantly. That's why it says down here, it says, thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Because their inward thought is that they shall continue forever, and their houses to all generations. They're not going to be able to. They're not going to be able to continue on, to all generations. So stand thou with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Just like the ancient Egyptians, did that. It came to a point where their enchantments were not working. Because, the Lord created both sides. And he allowed them to go so far with it. He allowed there to be you say one thing, Moses, okay, y'all do one thing, okay, they going to do one thing. You do another thing, they going to do another thing. You do another thing, they going to do another thing. But when you do this thing, they ain't going to be able to do nothing with it. Just like the brother put here, 2 Timothy 3:8. Now as Jannes and Jambres, which were two of the top witches or magicians of Pharaoh, withstood Moses, so do these also resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds reprobate concerning the faith. But they shall proceed no further, for their folly shall be manifest unto all men, as theirs also was. It's just like you have a magician, right? And he's doing his tricks, and the crowd is mesmerized, like, oh, wow, man. Because he has them bewitched. But then here it is, you have Toto. He comes up, on his forelegs, the dog Toto come up on the forelegs and pulls the curtain, and then you see all of the secrets that this magician was doing. Was nothing more than a sleight of hand, and people look, you say, oh, you mother, and that's pretty much, how this place is being revealed. So going back, it says, for a while, all things were in quiet silence, right? Because remember, this is 12 o'clock at night. Some of these people were sleeping, getting ready for the next day, business as usual. And what happened? Hell broke out. And that night was in the midst of her swift course, right? Just like any regular night, one of them nights. It's like I got a musical demon on me right now. It says, thine almighty word leaped down from heaven out of thy royal throne as a fierce man of war into the midst of a land of destruction. So ancient Egypt was known as a land of destruction. Just like modern day Egypt is also known as a land of destruction. because they're going to be destroyed. You know? Now, I'm not sure. Wait 1 second. Give me a second. All right, let's continue on. It says, and brought thine unfeigned commandment as a sharp sword. Yeah, because the Lord said that his words do not go out vain. His words are powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword. And standing up filled all things with death. And it touched the heaven, but it stood upon the earth. Then suddenly visions of horrible dreams troubled them sore, and terrors came upon them unlooked for. Right. And one throne here and another throne there, half dead, showed the cause of his death. Right, because, even during the time of the darkness, which the 17th chapter, Lord's will, if we get a chance, we'll go through it. They were catching hell, man. That night was not a very nice night to play with. But in these times, you got Jake that's just taking the Passover for a joke, man. Treating it like, you got grimy individuals, slime balls, coming to keep their Passover, coming to eat of the lamb unworthily. Now we know that we hope that the Lord have mercy on us. We know we ain't shit. We know we're wretched also, but we're hoping that the Lord have mercy on us. We're doing what the Lord said for us to do to the best of our ability. But some of these guys, they take this thing for a joke. Like we spoke about the Passover Israelites or the party Israelites. They'll never show up for class. They'll never go out to camp. But anytime there was a picnic, every time the Passover or High Holy Day would come up, somehow they miraculously would find their way there. It was fucking amazing. It's like they had a sixth sense. Oh, they're gonna have the Passover, or they're gonna have a picnic or a cookout, should I say, instead. And somehow they'll be there. Hey, Shalom. They'll have the baddest garment, saluting everybody, a hearty Shalom to everybody, holding big ass turkey legs in their hands, talking about I'll never forsake thee, King. Inside joke. But for real, this thing is not a joke, man. There was an incident at the school at One West, where you had this one individual from the old Boston crew, back in the 90s. And I guess the dude was a drug dealer, but he was going to, camp. He was, I'm not sure all the history on it, but he came to the Passover that one year, and guess what? He didn't make it home. They got into an accident. I believe it was on the FDR, if I'm not mistaken, the FDR Drive, or the FDR, and somehow the Spirit of the Lord made that individual fly out of the windshield, and by the time they got him, his face, he didn't have no face. The Lord took his face, everything. I don't know if it was from the windshield or from scraping on the asphalt of the highway, but the Lord wasn't playing, man. But then people want to take shit serious. But as long as ain't nothing happening, ain't nobody being put to death, everybody's going to do what they're going to do until the Lord gets busy and puts motherfuckers to death. Excuse my medieval French. It says, for the dreams that troubled them did foreshow this, lest they should perish and not know why they were afflicted. Yeah, because the Lord, before he do something, he gives you warning. Yea, the tasting of death touched the righteous also, and there was a destruction of the multitude in the wilderness, but the wrath endured not long. Right, because even when Jake was in the wilderness, remember, this was fresh. So that spirit of death was still lingering. And Jake started acting up, and the Lord said, all right, I got something for you. You want to fuck around? All right, I got something for you. And boom, start dropping dudes like flies. Then yeah, no, Lord, no, Moses, don't talk to the Lord, man. Tell him to chill out, tell him to stop, man. We were just playing. All right, that time of playing is gonna be over, man, when the Most High start opening up. For then the blameless man made haste and stood forth to defend them, right? Moses. And bringing King Moses, and bringing the shield of his proper ministry, even prayer and the propitiation of incense, set himself against the wrath, and so brought the calamity to an end, declaring that he was thy servant. So he overcame the destroyer, because Yahushua, remember, Yahushua was following them. Oh no, well you look, that was Egypt, man. What you talking about? That was thousands of years ago in Egypt. Christ wasn't there, as they would say. Oh man, the simplicity of the simple. But at the same time, they're blinded. So, it's like on the one hand you get upset, but on the other hand you understand. 1 Corinthians 10:1. Moreover, brethren, I would not that you should be ignorant, how that all our fathers were under the cloud, and all passed through the sea. And the cloud was a chariot, a so-called UFO. The sea was a Red Sea, and the Lord actually dried the Red Sea. I don't care what that old goat say. Talking about there was no parting of the sea. Some whatever bullshit this guy said out of his pie hole. And we're all baptized unto Moses. And if any of y'all are listening, because I know y'all be listening, be spying, you could go tell him I said that. And we're all baptized unto Moses in the cloud, which really is the Spirit of the Lord saying it. And we're all baptized unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. And did all eat the same spiritual meat. And did all drink the same spiritual drink. For they drank of that spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Yahushua. See? But with many of them the Most High was not well pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. Yeah, and they got destroyed by the destroyer. So going back to Wisdom of Solomon, so he overcame the destroyer, not with the strength of body nor force of arms, but with the word subdued him that punished. Yeah, because he made a propitiation. He made an atonement. Just like Phinehas, when he put to death that Jake and that heathen woman, when they was doing what they was doing to the God of that woman, that appeased the anger of the Lord. It says, alleging the oaths and the covenants made with the fathers. For when the dead were now fallen down by heaps, one upon another, standing between, he stayed the wrath and parted the way for the living. For in the long garment, the t-shirt with the fringes. For in the long garment, the t-shirt with the fringes. For in the long garment, the t-shirt with the fringes. For in the long garment was the whole world. And in the 4 rows of the stones was the glory of the Father's graven, right? Which is what? The 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, which is the ephod. And thy majesty upon the diadem of his head, right? Because he wore the turban. They had the fashion of the turban. It says, unto these the destroyer gave place and was afraid of them. Why? Because Yahushua obeys the voice of the Most High. He fears the Most High. That's why he did the things that he did when he was here. For it was enough that they only tasted of the wrath, right? Because they only got a taste of it. Because the Lord wanted to smoke the whole nation. Yep, the brother put Alashaja, which is God Almighty, demon-like power, yeah. So, Psalm 7:11, the Most High judge of the righteous, and the Most High is angry with the wicked every day. That's right. Yep, that's another good one. Ecclesiastes 43:29, the Lord is terrible and very great and marvelous in his power. That's right. All right, so now let's go from there. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon 17. I'm going to try to read through this. It's only 21 verses. Got time. Wisdom of Solomon 17:1. For great are thy judgments and cannot be expressed. Therefore unnurtured souls have erred. For when the unrighteous men thought to oppress the holy nation, which is what? The Egyptians, they being shut up in their houses, the prisoners of darkness, and fettered with the bonds of a long night, lay their exile from the eternal providence. Like, there's nights when you can't sleep, or you're going through certain situations, or you got stuff that's bothering you, or you might have had a nightmare, and you wake up in the middle of the night. It seems like that night doesn't end, That night doesn't want to end. It's like damn, like time we're moving super slow. It says, for while they supposed to lie hid in their secret sins, they were scattered under a dark veil of forgetfulness, being horribly astonished and troubled with strange apparitions. Right, because there were actual so-called ghostly appearances that were coming to them, and scaring the shit out of them. For neither might the corner that held them keep them from fear. Right, because what happens when somebody is scared? When they are scared, what do? They usually run into a corner. So they was hiding in these corners. They were nervous. They were scared. They were shitting on themselves, more than probably, Because hey, brother, when people get scared, I'm not talking about just scared like just like a sudden thing. I'm talking about a constant thing, like a 9/11 type thing or worse. People running. You don't know how many of them people peed on themselves and shitted on themselves that day. Trying to get away from that destruction. It says, but noises as of waters falling down sounded about them. And this was what it was. It was the Lord messing with them. They were hearing wild beasts. They were hearing waters flood. They were hearing serpents. But they weren't actually there. It was just the sounds that the Lord was making, that these spirits make to scare the shit out of these Egyptians, to where they were having heart attacks, strokes, seizures, dying. And sad visions appeared unto them with heavy countenances. Yeah, because this was a time of judgment. No power of the fire might give them light, neither could the bright flames of the stars endure to lighten that horrible night. Wait a minute, what happened to the sun god Ra? What happened to the sun god Ra? What, he took vacation them days? Only there appeared unto them a fire kindled of itself, very dreadful. For being much terrified, they thought the things which they saw to be worse than the sight they saw not. As for the illusions of art magic, As for the illusions of what? Art magic, they were put down, and their vaunting in wisdom was reproved with disgrace. That's what we read earlier, to stand up now with thine enchantments. See? And with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth, if so be thou shalt be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Same thing now. Because this is speaking about America, Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, the Edomites. And they're following in the footsteps of all of these other nations. Because all of these other nations had a priesthood, And they all had people that did the magic art. They all had their philosophers and wise men, counselors, witches, warlocks, monthly prognosticators, as it says here. The star gazers, astrologers. But none of this is going to be able to stop the fierce anger of the Lord when it comes. This is a good one. Job 18:14, his confidence shall be rooted out of his tabernacle, and it shall bring him to the king of terrors, which Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, that's the king of terrors. Sweet. All right, so let's go back where we at right here. For they that promise to drive away terrors and troubles from a sick soul, that's them witches and warlocks, were sick themselves of fear, worthy to be laughed at, because even they lost when the time came for the firstborn to be put to death. They lost their firstborn. For though no terrible thing did fear them, yet being scared with beasts that passed by and hissing of serpents. Yeah, because it wasn't actually beasts. It was just something that they were hearing. They died for fear from heart attack, strokes, denying that they saw the air, which could of no side be avoided. Yeah, because no matter what they did, they couldn't hide from what was going down that night. Just like Esau's not going to be able to hide when this whole situation goes down. For wickedness condemned by her own witness is very timorous, and be impressed with conscience always forecasteth grievous things. Because, once somebody is in a state of fear, their reasoning escapes them. They have nothing, they freeze up. That's why they have a term called petrified. They were petrified, meaning they were so in fear that they couldn't even move. You know? It says, for fear is nothing else but a betraying of the succors which reason offers. Right. So fear robs you of your reasoning, because reasoning is what helps us to make sense of things. But this horror that was happening, their reasoning just left, and nothing but fear took over. And the expectation from within being less counted the ignorance more than the cause which bringeth the torment. Right, because there was actually nothing actually there. I mean, there were apparitions, but these sounds that they heard were sounds that the Lord was using to actually terrify them. See? But they sleep in the same sleep that night, which was indeed intolerable, and which came upon them out of the bottoms of inevitable hell, out of the grave, were partly vexed with monstrous apparitions, and partly fainted, their heart failing them. For a sudden fear and not looked for came upon them. Yeah, they weren't expecting this, because remember, it was saying that it was a calm night. It was one of them nights, it was a cool night, and everything was all, most of them were probably sleeping. Some of them were probably up, whatever, and then all of a sudden, boom, this darkness came upon them. So then all of these different apparitions and things started happening. So then whosoever there fell down was straitly kept, shut up in a prison without iron bars, right? Because they were in prison for that time period. But there wasn't a prison where you have bars. It was just the whole ambiance that was going on. And like it says, I'm not sure if it's in this chapter or in another one, it said that the whole world wasn't affected by this. Only the Egyptians. Even the Israelites in the land of Egypt were not affected by this. Only the Egyptians. For whether he were husbandman or shepherd or a laborer in the field, he was overtaken and endured that necessity which could not be avoided. Right. And then when the time comes, the plagues that are coming upon America are not going to be able to be avoided. For they were all bound with one chain of darkness. Excuse me. Whether it were a whistling wind or a melodious noise of birds among the spreading branches, or a pleasing fall of water running violently, or a terrible sound of stones cast down. So just imagine it's dark as hell, and you hear it's like what it sounds like a avalanche, or a bunch of stones rolling up, coming down, boulders. You're gonna be like, oh shit! You're gonna hope that they miss you, or running that could not be seen of skipping beasts, or a roaring voice of most savage wild beasts. Damn, boy, they was catching hail. Or a rebounding echo from the hollow mountains. These things made them to swoon for fear. They were fainting, man. It says, for their whole world shined with clear light. For the whole world shined with clear light, and none were hindered in their labor. Over them only was spread in heavy night an image of that darkness which should afterward receive them, but yet were they unto themselves more grievous than the darkness. Right. So they were catching hell, man. And the Lord said that in these times, the Lord is going to plague this place again. But this time it's going to be Egypt, the spiritual Egypt, which is America, Babylon the Great, with the modern day Pharaoh. So this is 2 Ezra 15:7. Therefore saith the Lord, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit. Neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. Behold, the innocent and righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. Because, although Jake is wicked, right? They're here in Babylon. They might be the slimiest individual, but once they put to death by Esau and they go back in the spirit world, they're righteous again. They're on point now. And they're constantly complaining up there, to the Heavenly Father. From the great men of the Lord that died, the prophets of the Lord that died, to the least Jake out here in the streets. They're up there, spirits are up there crying to the Lord. How long, Lord? You could read that in, I believe, this Revelation, the 6th chapter. And therefore saith the Lord, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. And this is why the Lord is bringing these plagues upon Esau, because of what they did to us, the Israelites, among many other things. But that's one of the main beefs that the Lord has with them. Isaiah 34th chapter, about the controversy of Zion. That's what's going to bring an end to this place, just like it brought an end to the Egyptian empire. Because after that, Egypt never rose to that prominence ever again. Because remember, they lost their pharaoh, they lost their whole army. So that Egyptian empire at the moment was reduced to nothing, because without an army, you can't protect against the enemy. That whole empire state situation pretty much diminishes from there. You have no king, you have no military to protect, your way of life. That it's just a matter of time before other rogue nations come in there and take over that place. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. Right. This is talking about modern day Egypt. Babylon the Great, America. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm. So the Lord is going to bring us out of here with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm. But this time it's going to be in the form of these chariots. Let me bring this back here real quick. Psalms 91. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge, my fortress, my power, in him will I trust. Surely he shall deliver thee from the snare of the fowler, which the fowler is the bird trapper, which is Esau. The snare is a trap. And from the noise and pestilence, which are the missiles. He shall cover thee with his feathers, which are the chariots, and under his wings shalt thou trust, which are his chariots. His truth shall be thy shield and buckler. So that's the reservation, the ticket out of here. This is the most, I guess for lack of better words, the most coveted event ever in the world. And everybody wants to go to that. Oh, when the saints come marching in, everybody wants to go to that invitation. Everybody wants to be invited, and not just invited. Everybody wants to be, guests, in there, whether they're guests of honor or just guests in general. But not everybody's going to be a guest. Only the elect of the nation of Israel. All right, so you can read the rest of that. I'm just going to go back. It says, but I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm and smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. And the land of Egypt was not destroyed, not all of it. The Pharaoh was destroyed, his military was destroyed, but the land was still intact. So the Lord said he's going to smite Egypt again with plagues as before. Now, we don't know if it's going to be the same exact plagues, if it's going to be different types of plagues, but nevertheless, they're going to be plagues. And I will destroy all the land thereof. All right? The Lord did not destroy all the land of Egypt back then. It says, Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it, which is what? The missiles. Now, building on, I will destroy all the land thereof. Let's go to Jeremiah 51:25. Behold, I am against the old destroying mountain. This destroying mountain is America. Because a mountain is a representation of governments in certain cases. Saith the Lord, which destroyeth all the earth. And you destroyed the earth, and guess what the Lord said? He will destroy them which destroyed the earth. And I will stretch out mine hand upon thee, and roll thee down from the rocks, and will make thee a burnt mountain. Because bottom line is, this place is going to be destroyed by fire. So this government, that's been the most wickedest government on the planet, is going to be destroyed by way of thermonuclear destruction, plus the fire from the lasers of the chariots, and then the whatever fuels are here on the earth in America that are going to help fuel the fire, as they say. Now, jumping down to the 33rd verse, for thus saith the Lord of hosts, the power of Israel, the daughter of Babylon is like a threshing floor. It is time to thresh her, right? Because if you have a threshing floor, you have to fill that floor with grapes. And once you put the grapes in there, it comes a point where there's no more room for the grapes. So once you put the grapes in there, what's the next step? The next step, to stomp them grapes, to get the blood out of them. So the threshing floor is full, meaning their wickedness has reached the all-time high. And now it's time to thresh it. Now it's time to exact the vengeance upon it. It is time to thresh her yet a little while, and the time of a harvest shall come. And we know that the harvest is the end of the world. Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, hath devoured me. Now, this is not talking about the actual Nebuchadnezzar. It's talking about, because Nebuchadnezzar was a title, or Nebo was a title. I forget what it means. Something, the Lord protect my offspring, or something like that, or my son, or I forget, or Nebo protect my son, or something like that. You know, because it was like you had Nebuchadnezzar, you had Nebuzaradan. You know, it was a title. So this title, just like the title Pharaoh, is put upon the kings. Just like today, America, which is spiritually known as Sodom and Egypt, also known as the daughter of Babylon or Babylon the Great. You know, these are all titles for America. He hath crushed me. He hath made me an empty vessel. He hath swallowed me up like a dragon. He hath filled his belly with my delicates. He hath cast me out. Right. So this is these devils, you know, the destruction that they brought upon Jake from the southern kingdom to the northern kingdom. Right? It says, the violence done to me and to my flesh be upon Babylon, shall the inhabitants of Zion say. And that's what we're telling them, that prepare slaughter for his children for the iniquity of their fathers. Right, there you go. The water, brother, the brother Bakwar. Yep. Nabu, watch over my ear. That's it right there. I couldn't think of the actual term, but I know it was something about watch over, because I had just looked it up recently. It says, and my blood upon the inhabitants of Chaldea shall Jerusalem say. Right, so pretty much this, what we see going on here is the Lord bringing his judgments upon this place for what they have done to the nation of Israel. When we jump down to the 20th verse here, it says, rejoice over her, Revelation 18:20, rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for the Most High hath avenged you on her. So that's what's happening, and that's what this is speaking about right here. The avengement of the Heavenly Father and the inhabitants of Zion, the Israelites, and really it's all of Israel, but right now only the elect are really saying this. Therefore thus saith the Lord, behold, I will plead thy cause and take vengeance for thee, and I will dry up her sea and make her springs dry. Right. So the Lord is going to be the one that takes his place down and strips everything from the modern day Babylonians, or the so-called Americans. And Babylon shall become heaps. Ancient Babylon did not become heaps, although you had wars that were fought there, but the Babylonian Empire was just, it was a takeover. You know, they just went up in there. There was no major war. It was just Darius the Mede and the Persian military and the Medo Persian military that just went in there and took over the kingdom. There was no major war. So this is not talking about ancient Babylon, because ancient Babylon was no major war that made it become heaps, that made it to be destroyed by fire. A dwelling place for dragons. And this verse right here goes hand in hand with Isaiah 34. And in this verse is speaking about, or in this chapter is speaking about Babylon, right? And in Isaiah 34 is speaking about what? The Edomites, which are synonymous with Babylon today. Because the dwelling place of dragons are what? These unclean beasts, these unclean animals, which is spoken of in Isaiah 34, Isaiah 13. It's also spoken about in Revelation, the 18th chapter. All of these things are symbolic of what the Lord is going to do, because this is going to actually happen once this place is destroyed. Nothing but unclean birds and animals and reptiles and creeping things are going to be here on the soils of America. Because there's going to be a plain. There's going to be nothing here. The Lord's going to level it out. And an astonishment and an hissing, right? That's why the nations are going to stand afar off for the fear of her torment. You know, when America is destroyed. So she's going to be an astonishment and a hissing, because it's like back then when them different empires were ruling, people were like in awe of those empires. But then when they fell, it's like, damn, when you go like, man, tisk, 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 look at that. That used to be that used to be Babylon. That used to be the Greek Empire. That used to be the Roman Empire. And then people are going to say, that used to be America, that great city. Wow. Without an inhabitant, right? Because the ancient Babylon is still inhabited today. So this did not happen yet. There will not be any inhabitants that will live here. Why? Because the Lord is going to level this place out. And there's not going to be any civilization of man, to set this place back up or to colonize it or whatever the case may be. The only thing that's going to inhabit this place are desert creatures, wild animals. They shall roar together like lions. They shall yell as lions' whelps. In their heart will I make their feasts, and I will make them drunken, that they may rejoice and sleep a perpetual sleep and not wake, saith Yahweh. Right. So this place is destined for destruction. I will bring them down like lambs to the slaughter, like rams with he-goats. What does this remind us of? Isaiah 34. That great slaughter, that great sacrifice. The altar, as Elder Pastor brought out in Isaiah 34, the great altar that the Most High is going to sacrifice these people that are left on the shores of America here. It's going to be a great sacrifice. Because remember, a sacrifice is not complete unless it has some type of blood. And that's what's going to make the atonement. Because this place, there's no other way to clean it up but to destroy it. Now, this is interesting here. How is Shishak taken? And how is the praise of the whole earth surprised? How is Babylon become an astonishment among the nations? And Shishak is just another name for Babylon. Now, when we look up this word Shishak, right? Shashak, right? It says Shishak, thy fine linen. So, that's what it's called. Thy fine linen, right? Now, keep that in mind. Another name for Babylon apparently taken from the goddess Shak. Now, when we look up this word Shishak, it's a compound word, right? Which means thy fine linen or your fine linen. When we go to Exodus 39:27, and they made coats of fine linen of woven work for Aaron and for his sons. And we look up that term fine linen. What do we have there? It's shasha. Shasha or shash. So here you have shashaka or shashak, which means thy fine linen or your fine linen, because shasha is fine linen and the ka at the end of the word is your. So your fine linen or thy fine linen, right? And that's another name for Babylon the Great, because America is what? That golden city, right? And we just read here in Revelation 18:16 and saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple and scarlet and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. Yeah, because this is the place of that fine linen. This is Shishak. This is Babylon, America, Babylon the Great, which when we read here in Revelation 18:14, it says, and the fruits that thy soul lusted after are departed from thee, and all things which were dainty and goodly are departed from thee, and thou shalt find them no more at all, because fine linen is a material of wealth. Like you have silk and you have velour, you have different types of fabrics, but then you have the finest of the fabrics. When you look up the word goodly, is the word lampros, right? And it says shining, brilliant, clear, transparent, splendid, magnificent, splendid things. An example, luxuries or elegancies in dress or style. Like it says shining, brilliant. What does Jake say? I'm shining, right? Because of the lifestyle that they live in. And that's the glory of America, that shining beacon of light, that golden city. But it's about to cease, And all nations at one time were enamored by this hoe. So let's read that again. Revelation 18:16 is saying, alas, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen and purple, Shishak, and purple and scarlet, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls. Now this is going to go, fine linen is going to go into the Greek, which I didn't look it up. It says businos, fine linen, garment made of fine linen. Busos, fine linen. Of Hebrew origin, bawatazah. Baisus, a costly fine white linen, clothed made in Egypt. Check that out. This is Egyptian cotton, man. It's half your shitty ass paycheck. 223, half your shitty ass paycheck. Inside joke. All right. So fine linen. So going back here, that's Shishak or Shasha, which is fine linen. But Shishak is Shashaka or Shashak, which means your fine linen or thy fine linen. So that's another name for Babylon. How is Shishak taken, and how is the praise of the whole earth surprised? How is Babylon become an astonishment among the nations? Why? Because they're not going to believe that this place had that rule. It says, the sea is come up upon Babylon. She is covered with the multitude of the waves thereof. Her cities are a desolation, a dry land in the wilderness, a land wherein no man dwelleth, neither doth any son of man pass thereby. There was another point in here. Just bear with me 1 second. I had it marked, but okay. All right. I'll keep on going. It says, "Then I will punish Bel and Babylon, which are your idols, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he swallowed up." Yeah, because through their witchcraft and their so-called gods, they pretty much done duped the whole world. That their witchcraft is what did that. That's why Revelation 18 says that the Lord's there's going to be no more witchcraft or sorcery coming from them. And the nations shall not flow together anymore unto him. That's right. Yea, the wall of, why? Because they're going to flow together to Yahushai and us, the Israelites. Because that's the next kingdom that's going to be established on the planet Earth. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. Yeah, that whole facade that you had put up, that's going to fall. No more empires of the heathens. That's a lesson right there. No more empires of the heathens. My people, go ye out of the midst of her, and deliver ye every man his soul from the fierce anger of the Lord. Meaning, don't be a partaker in this place. And eventually, the going out is going to be up into the chariots. And lest your heart faint, and you fear for the rumor that shall be heard in the land. A rumor shall both come in 1 year, and after that in another year shall come a rumor, and violence in the land, ruler against ruler. Yeah, and this is all what's coming. You speak about it. It seemed like it's just about there. Then it kind of seems like it dies down, and it builds up again, and it dies down. It builds up again, and it dies down. But eventually it's going to pop. It's getting ready to pop. It says, therefore, behold, the days come that I will do judgment upon the graven images of Babylon. Yeah, that's all your philosophies, your religions, all that bullshit that you've been pushing. That's all going to be taken down. And her whole land shall be confounded, and all her slain shall fall in the midst of her. Yep, that's it. It says, the heaven and the earth and all that is therein shall sing for Babylon, for the spoiler shall come unto her from the north, saith the Lord. Yeah, because once this place is destroyed, everything is going to go back to its proper order. That's why Yahushua said, the Lord, let your thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. As Babylon hath caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon shall fall the slain of all the earth. Yet have he escaped Ye that have escaped the sword, go away, stand not still. Remember the Lord afar off, and let Jerusalem come into your mind. We are confounded because we have heard reproach. Shame hath covered our faces, for strangers are come into the sanctuaries of the Lord's house. Wherefore, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will do judgment upon her graven images, and through all her land the wounded shall groan. Though Babylon should mount up to heaven, and though she should fortify her height of her strength, yet from me shall spoilers come unto her, saith the Lord. Yeah, this is also in Isaiah the 14th chapter and in the book of Obadiah. You know, for those that say that the Edomites are already done away with, no, this is about to happen. And then the Edomites will not be done away with until they serve their captivity. Let's see, Obadiah. Obadiah 1 and 4, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. All right, what was the other one? Well, you could go to Isaiah 14 for that one. You know, and you know, pretty much the point is made. It said, the sound of a cry cometh from Babylon, and great destruction from the land of the Chaldeans. So this place is finished pretty much. You know? So really what we should be in now should really be in a solemn mindset. You know, cheerful because the Lord is bringing this place down, but also solemn because, you know, the night of the deliverance from Egypt was a solemn night, you know, and we read through some of the history on it. And the night that Yahushua was before he was put on the cross, was a solemn night, a night of reflection, a night of fear, you know, of extreme anguish, not a night of partying, you know. But, you know, be it as it may, this has been in that night. So I pray that you brothers and your futures have been edified. Until the next time I say, Shalom.